Brave New Work is a playbook for leaders and teams who are eager to reinvent their organizations. And the reason that it's sort of critical right now is that we're all really fed up with bureaucracy. And so the idea is that the red tape, the policies, the hierarchies, the silos that are kind of slowing us down and crushing our spirit are no longer fit for the world of work that we live in. And we have the opportunity to reinvent them. So the idea of the book and the techniques that it offers are about asking that question: what's stopping us from doing the best work of our lives? And then doing the experiments, the changes, the adjustments in every team at every level to find that new way, something that's more adaptive, more human, more in line with the world of work that we each want to live in. One of our clients had a challenge with always-on burnout culture where the leadership team had an average of 45 hours a week of meetings. So if you can imagine looking at calendars that are just a sea of red blocks, no time for lunch, very little time for dinner, and no time for thinking. And the complaint that we heard most commonly from those leaders was, we don't know where the next sort of phase of growth is going to come from. We don't know what our vision is. And we said, well, yeah, because you don't have any time to think and be with your own thoughts and to reflect. So we suggested a meeting moratorium, which is stopping all meetings at that level for 2 weeks, which at first was sort of a crazy idea, but after a few days of thinking about it, they decided to do it. And wouldn't you know it, after we came back from the 2-week break, they only needed about 12 hours of meetings every week. I think preparing for AI is sort of a twofold job. One is on the employee side. I think if you're doing something that is repetitive, that can be handled by a checklist, that can be broken down into a set of steps, then you really ought to start to migrate towards the aspects of your job or even other jobs that require more creativity and judgment, because there's no question, whether we like it or not, that AI is going to eat some of the more repetitive stuff, as will robotics and other kinds of machine learning. And we don't know exactly what the timetable is, but sooner rather than later. On the business side and on the sort of societal side, we have to think about the consequences of this, which means potentially better social safety nets. It might mean retraining. It might mean creating organizations that have a different anatomy than what we're used to seeing now, with more roles that are in creative and innovative spaces. So I think we have a lot more thinking to do about the possible implications on the systems side than we're doing right now. And if both sides do their part, then it might actually make the world a little bit better, a little bit more leisure and a little bit more openness to focusing on the new. So one dangerous workplace myth is that planning creates some sense of safety, some outcome, and that's true in a system with low dynamics where things don't change very often. But when things change rapidly, planning can actually be a bit of an albatross. So we have annual plans, we have annual reviews, we have annual budgets, as if the world somehow rotates on a 365-day basis. What I often invite teams to do is just pick one team, one project, one P&L, one region, one store, where we say, let's work iteratively. Let's do more of an agile approach where we're going to sprint every week or every 2 weeks and see where we are and adjust course accordingly. I often joke with teams, if you had to cross the Atlantic in a sailboat, would you rather steer once or steer every 5 seconds? And of course everyone says every 5 seconds. But then when it comes time to do our most important work, we go for that steer once approach. I think for any new founder or startup leader, or even inside an organization creating something new, the first place to start is just with this idea of consent. So when we create policies, structures, roles, rules, norms within the organization, just to ask for agreement, to get agreement from everyone and use a process that seeks consent is a great way to get buy-in and sort of move things forward. And consent is not consensus, mind you. It's not everybody loves it and is over the moon about it. It's that everyone agrees it's safe to try. So a safe to try bar is important. The second thing that can sort of help augment that is to institute an advice process. And an advice process is whenever you think the decision you're about to make is dangerous enough that it might be irreversible or it might really harm us, go seek advice. Get advice from people that have been there before or that'll be affected by your decision. And a good, robust advice process and a commitment to it culturally can replace all that, top-down, hierarchical, decision scrutiny and waiting for the leader to say yes or no with some common judgment and some responsibility.